John Smith, a man with a modest and quiet demeanor, stepped into a luxurious car showroom, a space where dazzling lights and gleaming cars seemed designed to flaunt extravagance. However, instead of being treated with respect, he was met with disdainful looks and dismissive attitudes from the staff, people who judged others solely by their appearance. Little did they know that within a single night, their fate would change entirely. The next day, the very man they had mocked returned, not to purchase a car, but to deliver a shocking truth. He was now the new owner of the dealership. What followed was like a storm sweeping through, dismantling the arrogance and unprofessionalism of those who had misjudged him. John Smith, with his quiet wisdom and understated authority, delivered a profound and powerful lesson, a form of justice no one had anticipated. This dramatic turn of events left the entire showroom stunned, and it became an unforgettable lesson about respect and humility. Thank you for supporting Mr. Wisdom Stories. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to discover more amazing tales as soon as they are released. John Smith epitomized the ideal of a successful entrepreneur, someone who had built his financial empire from scratch with nothing but determination and hard work. In his 60s, he lived in a graceful villa nestled in an upscale suburban neighborhood. Yet, contrary to the typical image of the wealthy, John never flaunted his riches. He didn't drive flashy supercars, attend lavish parties, or grace the covers of glamorous magazines. Instead, he cherished the simple joys of life. Quiet mornings sipping coffee in his sunlit garden and peaceful evenings reading under the warm glow of a table lamp. John was a man of subtlety and depth, firmly believing that a person's true worth lay not in what they owned, but in how they lived. His appreciation for simplicity was evident in his everyday choices, including his old, well-worn car. The sedan, though faded with age, symbolized the struggles and triumphs of his early years, accompanying him from the humble beginnings of his career to the pinnacle of his success. For John, the car wasn't just a mode of transportation. It was a loyal companion, holding memories and stories that were irreplaceable. But time spares nothing. The car's engine began to falter, its paint peeled, and breakdowns became increasingly frequent. Initially, John hesitated, spending a large sum on a new car for the sake of appearance didn't align with his values. However, an incident changed his mind. On a visit to an old friend in the countryside, the car broke down unexpectedly, leaving him stranded on the roadside for hours until help arrived. Returning home that evening, John realized it was time to replace his faithful vehicle, not to make a statement or follow trends, but to meet practical needs. He began researching options, seeking a car that reflected his principles. A sophisticated, powerful sedan that was understated yet reliable and offered smooth performance, much like his approach to life. The search led him to the largest dealership in town, reputed for its premium models and bold claims of exceptional customer service. As a man who valued quality and professionalism, John hoped the experience would live up to its promises. Unbeknownst to him, this simple decision to buy a new car would unfold into a story of unexpected justice and humility, one that no one at the dealership would ever forget. After careful consideration, John chose the largest dealership in town, known for its collection of luxury cars and its grandiose advertisements about top-tier customer service. As someone who values quality and professionalism, John expected that his experience here would live up to the reputation the dealership had built. His search for a new car seemed like an ordinary task, but it unfolded into an unexpected story, one where John's humility and calm demeanor faced off against the arrogance and bias of those who judged others by appearances. That morning, John Smith woke up to the soft morning light streaming through the window. The chilly winter air made him pull his familiar old coat tighter around his body. Today, he decided to take time to do something he had put off for too long: buy a new car. His worn-out old car was parked in the yard, its paint faded, bearing the marks of time. John started the engine, which sputtered for a moment before roaring to life. The road from his house to the town center stretched out under a light mist. The roadside houses and bare trees blurred past, but his mind was focused on the car showroom he planned to visit. Upon arrival, John parked his car and walked slowly to the largest showroom in town. The building appeared before him like a gleaming metal block, its glass doors reflecting the morning sunlight. He paused for a moment at the entrance, adjusted his collar, and then stepped through the automatic doors, which opened with a soft ting. Inside, the space exuded the kind of glamour that John had never liked. The polished tile floor was so shiny he could see his reflection, and the cold LED lights shone down on the luxury cars, making their metallic paint sparkle like jewels. The sound of his leather shoes echoed clearly in the bustling space. The room was crowded. The salespeople, dressed in perfectly fitted suits with slicked-back hair, huddled around customers in expensive attire. Laughter and conversation blended with the sound of engines from the test drive area in the back. But no one paid attention to the elderly man in his worn coat and faded shoes who had just entered. John paused at the entrance, his gaze sweeping across the neatly arranged shiny cars. He could feel the furtive glances from a few employees. A group standing near the door glanced at him, whispered, and then chuckled softly. Though he couldn't hear exactly what they were saying, he could sense the lack of courtesy. No one came to greet him, not a single polite word of welcome. John said nothing. He walked slowly, his eyes fixed on the cars around him. He first stopped at a large SUV, gently running his hand over the glossy hood. But it wasn't the type of car he needed. He continued walking, slowly, as if not wanting to miss any details. Finally, his eyes landed on a black sedan, elegant with sleek design lines. John stood still for a long while, his aging hand gently gliding over the smooth paint, as if trying to feel the quality of the metal beneath. His gaze lit up with both pleasure and deep contemplation. Around him, the salespeople were still busy with customers they deemed worthy. A young employee nearby glanced at John, raised an eyebrow, and then whispered to a colleague, "He's probably just here to look for fun." Another employee laughed and added, "Maybe he's just looking for a place to escape the cold? With that appearance, how could he afford a car?" Soft giggles echoed from behind. John heard it, but didn't turn his head. He continued walking to another car, silently like a shadow in the brightly lit room. In contrast to the glamour and noise around him, he carried with him the calmness and patience of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. For nearly half an hour, John walked through every section of the showroom, carefully examining each car without receiving any guidance or assistance. Occasionally, he glanced toward the reception desk, where the staff continued to chat happily without sparing him a glance. A few brief glances passed over him, but they quickly turned away, as if his presence was not worth their attention. John stopped once again in front of the black sedan that he particularly liked. He thought to himself that this could be the right choice. Both luxurious and powerful but not overly showy. However, after nearly half an hour of searching, he still had not received any assistance from the sales team. Finally, he walked straight to the reception desk. 3 employees were there, chatting and laughing as if their job was entertainment. John politely spoke up, "Excuse me, I would like to buy a car. Can anyone assist me?" One of them, James, who was probably in charge, looked up, assessing John from head to toe, his gaze cold and indifferent. "We're busy. Please wait a moment." John showed no emotion. He nodded and responded calmly, "Yes." He walked over to the sleek black sofa nearby, sat down slowly, and surveyed the showroom. The place was crowded, with many customers dressed in formal attire and beautiful shoes, chatting and negotiating with the sales representatives about contracts, insurance, and everything else. But no one seemed to notice the elderly man sitting there, and after nearly 30 minutes, no one had approached him to discuss buying a car. Finally, he stood up, walked slowly toward the door, and left. His figure silent, his face expressionless, calm, with only a sharp, keen gaze that no one noticed. No one there could have predicted that the simple man they had ignored would return the next day, and everything would never be the same. The next morning, when John returned to the showroom, the atmosphere was as lively as usual. The staff in their neat suits walked between the cars, greeting customers with fake smiles. John entered the showroom slowly but with authority. Each step echoed clearly on the polished floor, like the beating of a drum signaling an inevitable change. His worn-out coat and faded shoes were still there, but his eyes now were cold and sharp, exuding the confidence of someone who was completely in control of the situation. The showroom was as crowded as the day before, with the staff huddled around customers they deemed worthy of attention. John walked straight to the reception desk, where James, the manager from the day before, was talking with a group of employees. Upon seeing John from afar, James sneered with a mocking smile, his half-smile revealing his contempt. He leaned against the desk and spoke in a sarcastic tone. "Hello, sir. Back again today? Which one are you planning to buy?" John didn't answer. His sharp gaze was fixed solely on James. Standing straight, he pulled out a thick stack of documents from his pocket and placed it on the reception desk with a decisive thud. "I want to meet the branch manager," John said. James raised an eyebrow, picking up the file with a look of doubt. But as he flipped through the first few pages, the smile quickly vanished from his face. James's face went pale, his hands trembling so much that he almost dropped the file. The employees around them began to notice, their eyes turning toward the two of them. John smiled faintly, his voice deep and firm but hitting James's pride like a punch to the stomach. "Yesterday, I came here as a customer, but today, I am here as the new owner of this place." The room suddenly fell silent. The engine sounds and chatter that had been filling the air seemed to stop. All eyes were on John, while James stammered, "The new owner? You can't be serious, can you?" John's voice rang out loud enough for everyone in the showroom to hear clearly. "I have bought the entire dealership. Please call the branch manager here." James stood frozen, mouth open as if to protest but unable to speak. The other employees exchanged glances, their faces a mixture of shock and concern. A young employee who had mocked John the day before whispered to James, Is this really true? Is he really the new owner?" The branch manager stepped forward, a middle-aged man in a well-fitted suit, walking out from the office inside, his face showing clear panic and confusion upon seeing John. His voice trembled. "Mr. Smith, I didn't expect you to arrive this soon. I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience caused by our staff." "Everyone," the branch manager announced loudly, "Mr. Smith is our new owner." James and the others stood with their mouths agape, while a few employees in the back started whispering, their faces full of embarrassment and concern. One of the younger employees, who had mocked John the day before, tried to speak quietly to James. This is really true? He's really the new owner?" The branch manager replied loudly, "Yes, starting today, Mr. Smith is our new owner, the owner of this car dealership." At that moment, John spoke again, his gaze sweeping across the showroom. "Yesterday, you judged me based on my appearance, but I am not here to hear apologies or see frightened faces. What I want is change." He pointed at James, his voice as cold as ice. "James, you're fired immediately. And anyone who has ever shown disrespect to customers like you no longer belongs here." James stood motionless, his mouth opening as if to argue but unable to form any words. The remaining employees looked at each other, their faces a mix of horror and worry. A few timidly spoke up, trying to explain themselves. I didn't know who you were. If I had known you were the new owner, I wouldn't have acted this way." John raised his hand to cut them off firmly. "It doesn't matter who I am. Your job is to serve customers with respect, no matter how they look. The more premium the products we sell, the more respect we must show our customers. Sales are about service, helping customers get products with the value they pay for." The atmosphere in the showroom seemed to freeze. The employees who had mocked him the day before now stood silently, heads bowed, unwilling to meet his gaze. A few of them sneaked away, as if trying to escape the uncomfortable situation. His face remained cold, but a faint smile appeared, a sharp smile full of authority. Then, turning back to the employees, he spoke, each word carrying weight. "I don't care how you treat me, but from today, there will be no place in this dealership for arrogance or unprofessionalism. We don't just sell cars, we build trust. We put customers at the center of everything. If customers are satisfied, we earn income. Customers come first. If you can't do that, the door is over there. Make way for someone who values customers." That day, the changes began. James and several other employees were immediately fired. The remaining staff, those who truly had good intentions and were willing to learn, were kept under John Smith's direct supervision. The largest car dealership in town entered a new chapter where lessons on respect and humility would be engraved forever. Do you agree with Mr. John Smith's perspective? Thank you for watching and supporting the Mr. Wisdom Stories channel. Please subscribe to the channel for the latest updates.